Well, good afternoon and welcome everybody to another Full Sail University online class. My name is Steve Kane, and once again I am here with you with the Audio Workstations class for this beautiful week 3. Lecture 1 has begun. And I want to welcome Charles, Clarence, Dante, Hector, James K, Jeffrey D, and Robert, how is everybody doing tonight? We got a lot of fun going on here as we dive into some effects routing and get all that stuff going on. So it's going to be a good time tonight. Got lots of questions being asked, so y'all stick around, buckle up those seatbelts, keep your arms and legs inside the vehicle at all times, and let's get this party started! Well, Hector, we've got to wait for those trumpets to die down. That trumpet player needs to run out of breath. All right. Welcome, everybody. I'm glad that you are here with us on this lovely afternoon here. Man, it is cold today down here for Florida. It got all the way down in the 60s today and was down in like the 40s last night. It was chilly, cold. But as I said, we've got a great lecture here for you as we jump into our Pro Tools 3 assignment. So when you're looking down through the class here, jump into week 3. Now remember, today you are just following along with me. You're not doing it, and you're going to do it with the archive later on. Remember, as you take notes, you might want to jot down the times and the lectures that I'm actually doing the things in there, because a lot of times we might jump down one or two of those, teaching tunnels. Because how else could we become a scarecrow, outstanding in your field? So we want to dive down some of those, so it might be easier for you as you're taking notes to just jot down some times on the video, so as you play back and you follow along and do everything there, it is great. So I opened up my Pro Tools 3, and as you see, I've already done my save as under here and put my name on it. So as you look down at week 3, that will open up to this, and you will see your Pro Tools assignment as the second activity. And then you have your guidelines as always and your zip file. So when I open up my PDF right here, I'm not going to read it to you, but it says it is absolutely essential to listen to the kidding, I'm not going to read it to you. But it says we're going to be covering basic mixing this week. So now let me take a quick poll. I believe I can take for granted that everybody has learned about mixing routing already in maybe a different software. Things like time-based effects and dynamic effects. Things like volume and pan. May I take that for granted? Have y'all done that before? Good. All right. So I like to do that because I like to refresh it. But if I'm not, if people aren't down with it, like, no, I've never taken it before, sometimes I'll jump into a little bit. Remember, if you got something late, please reach out to us. We have a heart, but it is hard to have a heart if we don't know beforehand. All right. So as always, our first number 1 is do a save as and name it your first name, last name, PTA 3. All right. So what we do next is we're going to start working with some effects. Now, this one talks about the audio suite menu. So before we actually do this, I want to jump down 2 quick little things. So you've got the audio suite menu, which is up here. And if you notice, you have a lot of effects down here. Matter of fact, you have got a lot of the similar effects that you have here. Right now, so the let's say this: every effect in the whole wide world can fall in 2 categories. It will either be real time, which you put on the insert, or it could be a rendered effect that you would put up here like Audio Suite. All right. So, because it is asking us to go to the Audio Suite menu, that needs to be a Pavlov response of like ding, ding, ding. I mean, like, does that name ring a bell or what? When somebody says Audio Suite, you need to think, that's rendered. And so, check it out. I'm even going to show you. Look at this EQ under the Audio Suite menu. And now look at this EQ under the inserts. So as you see, they are pretty identical. The one that is real time that lives in the inserts has this bypass button that I can bypass, and we'll even put it right on my voice, right? I want to get away. I want to fly away. There we go. See? But now I can bypass this in real time if I want, and everything is cool. Whereas this does not have a bypass button. Instead, it has a render button. And render is just a cool word for rewrite. I would fly so high just like a butterfly. Right? So the cool thing is when I figure out something here, and you know what? Let's just do a little bit of recording here. Oh, I love to record so much. Now, listen when I play this back. Oh, I love to record so much. Oh, I love to record so much. So you can see that it's real time, right? But if I don't like this and I want my computer to save power, what I'm going to do is I'm going to save that, and I might call it Steve's Special Vox, and then hit save. All right, now look, I'm going to take it off. But now on this rendered effects, I'm going to go to Steve's Special Vox, and I'm going to render that and watch. Oh, I love to record so much. And it had my vocal on it. It had that sound on it. So as you can see too, when it was rendered, it made a new file. It named it EQ3, right? It gave you a whole new file, EQ3. So everybody give me a capital R if rendered makes sense, that it rewrites this file up here, right? So we're going to get rid of that. And so what I want to do real quick then is it said, listen to that funk guitar and see where you would put it. So let's take the submaster, and then the submaster needs to go to the main outs. All right, so let's check it out. All right, now I've got Dante asking, does Command Z take away render? You know what? Here's the best way that you can tell. Under the Windows menu, go down to Undo History, because some things, like making the track larger, is not undoable. Some things are, and some of them are not. So, nope. Look, I took all that 3-band, and it took it off the track. But it did. Oh no! Look, now it's out of my clips list. Now it gave it to me. All right, boom. So yes, and that's how you figure something out, right? If check this out, making my track large is not undoable because it's not in the undo history. Okay. So let's see. So now we've got that. So they said they wanted us to render this. So we're going to select it, because that you got to select it to affect it. You know what I mean? You got to select it to affect it. And it wanted us to pitch shift it up 1 semitone. So when you go to pitch shift, you just got to make sure that you want to use it in the play selection. Otherwise, it's going to render it and just stick it over here in the clips. And you can just go right here and they're linked together. Put one semitone, and look, uno, uno, everything's great. Hit render, and it's going to go right here. Now listen. Undo it. Redo it. Give me a capital P if you can. Capital P if you can hear the pitch change. All right, so there it is, and that's what it should sound like. Now, remember, a semitone is just one step in the scale, right? One key on the piano to the one right next door, whether it's a black one or a white one. And then the cents are everything in between the white key and the black key, or the two white keys. Just whatever key. All right, so anything next door is a semitone, and then the bending of them in between is the fine tune. Great question. All right, so I'm going to hit save, and we've got that. Now it says from the tracks menu, unhide and activate guitar effects, and use time-based routing to route this track to the delay. All right, so we're going to set the level to -11, unity gain for the return, and solo safe it. All right, so let's first jump down another teaching tunnel. Hang on a second. Teaching tunnel! Woo! All right, wasn't that fun? All right, so now, just as we explained earlier, we said every track was going to be rendered or real time. Another rule that we have is every effect will either be time-based or dynamic-based. All right? A time-based effect is like this reverb that we hear, even though, believe it or not, I've got reverb on my voice. It doesn't sound like it, but I do. Usually people think of reverb like this, like, I've got reverb in my voice. But the cool thing about it is, see, I can blend my dry voice with my reverb voice, and that's how I become a monk. I'm beginning to become a monk. Let's go back to, or I mean, there's another good one, like an empty. Where's the? Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Pro Tools event of the century. So, it doesn't have to be all that kind of stuff. It can just be something like I had earlier that just kind of fills in and boosts up your normal stuff. Now, so that is a time-based effect. We've routed it with our sends. I'm going to right-click, and then I'm going to hit sends over here. I right-clicked right up in the top here. And so I had to set up an effect here, right? A send. I was sending from here to there. So we're going to do that with that guitar. Now, the other thing that I just showed you, like that EQ, the EQ goes right on the insert of the dry vocal. So that's the difference. Effects can only go on inserts, but you put dynamic effects on the inserts of the dry track, and then you put the time-based effects on the delay or on the part. Oh, that's a nice empty room. Y'all come over here. We're going to put the boxes on the other side of the room. All right, so when we go there. All right. So everybody put TB for time-based. TBD. TBD for time-based and dynamic, that you understand those differences. All right. Give me a question mark if you need to ask me a question about time-based versus dynamic. Dynamic we put right on the track. Time base, we leave it on its own special effects track and we blend them in. All right, Hector, you got a question? Go ahead and type it out. So we blend via the sends. Yes, I like to leave the return at 0, and then I like to blend with how much send I have it. And that way I can share these effects with other tracks, and we'll do that a little bit later on tonight. All right, so now it is asking me, it says, get guitar effects out, route it to the delay, 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 delay. Sorry, that was me. All right, so guitar effects, we're going to right click and we're going to show it and make it active. They said they also want to send it to the delay, so we're going to hit the delay right there. So 3 fingers down. All right, now I want to send both of these to my submaster first for no other reason that I need to pull these down separately above my voice. I'm going to teach you about submasters next week, I promise. But what I want to show you right now then is, so for our time-based routing in Pro Tools, we're going to do this. We already put the effect for you. So dynamic delay. So when I send this, right, so this is why you need your sends column. Make sure I get sends, you get 10 of them, A through E and F through J, so make sure you're looking at the right ones. It's kind of easy to get mixed up because you could have your mixing board looking at one and the edit looking at another. It's crazy like that. So what we're going to do is we have our sends. So I need to send a copy of this, right? So my dry copy is going to my submaster, and so is my delay. So I'll blend those together, right? So I've got them both. I want them both at 0 right now. So I got them both at 0. I just hit Option to get them both at 0. So I've got my delay here already. So in my sends, I don't need to go to an output because that's going to send it out of my system. What I need to do is keep it inside my system. And since we're starting at the beginning, let's just use bus 1 and 2. So if I use bus 1 and 2, that means as I use this send, it is going to send to bus 1 and 2. So if it's sending out bus 1 and 2, my delay then has to receive bus 1 and 2. So now you're going to see, as I play this funk guitar, as I turn this up, we're going to start seeing it in the delay. All right, so I'm sending out bus 1 and 2, and those are internal routings into the computer. So if that's sending through bus 1 and 2, then I need to receive bus 1 and 2 on my aux track. All right, so now this is my dry guitar, this is my wet guitar. So it says the way you generally do it is you listen to it, you listen to more than you need, and then you bring it down to where you like, something like this. And you dial it in. They want you to put it at -11, so if you're finding it hard to get to -11, you can hold down the Command key, and that will move it really fine. Or you can just go here and type -11. And now this will be the mixing way. This is how we're going to blend it in. We want to leave this at 0 because we're going to use this delay for something else later. You know, why use 2 plugins if we can just route 2 different things to it? But I am going to forget what bus 1 and 2 are, so I'm going to rename this delay. So I'm sending it, right? I've got my columns. I'm sending out bus 1 and 2. And think of it as, and look, it just relabeled bus 1 and 2. And because I'm sending out bus 1 and 2 on my aux track, I need its input to receive bus 1 and 2. And that's how we get that from here to here. Now, if you'll notice, when I hit solo, it's going to mute everything out except my voice because I like my voice not being muted. So you're probably wondering yourself, I wonder how we did that. So what I did is whenever you mute something or whenever you solo something is you mute everything else, right? Well, the odds that you want to hear the guitar and its effect are probably good, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to solo safe this one, means it's going to be safe from soloing. So I'm going to command click on the solo button. See how it grays it out? Now when I solo it, look, it doesn't mute it. And look. Now look, I didn't solo save my submaster either, so I needed to do that. That's why we didn't hear it. All right, and so in the mix, it goes like this. Now, what you might find, I call these under my tools, I call these my tick me off buttons. The tab to transient, the link timeline and edit selection, link track and edit selection. So one of these, check this out. And so let me just explain these because usually when Pro Tools isn't acting the way you want it to act, it's one of these tick me off buttons. All right. So, like for instance, this one right here says link your track and your edit selection. So, if I'm making an edit selection, see how my track names light up too? So, it's linking my edit selection and my track name. Right? But if I don't have that on there, look, it's totally unlinked now. And as I move my edit selection, my track selection isn't changing. The other one that might be kind of weird is this link timeline and edit selection, because this is the timeline up here. And usually whatever I do in the timeline right now, they're linked. If I do something here, it's going to happen here. If I do something here, it's going to happen up in the timeline. But if I unlink those, I could have a separate timeline selection than I do an edit selection, right? So sometimes those are just going to kind of tick you off. And so I like to make sure a lot of times these are on, good to go. So I made that as a point because if you selected this guitar effects and it did not automatically choose that name, that was right there. That was the this button right here. If you had this selected and it doesn't automatically select the track name, you've got to make sure that that link track and edit selection is on. All right. So let's see. Delays. All right. So give me a B1 if you understand that bus 1 and 2 is how we sent a copy of it. I've got my original dry. I mix my wet with it. And remember, I'm not expecting you to fully understand. I just want you to, have everything make sense. If it's not making sense, give me a question mark and then let's talk about it. By the way, do y'all ever know how you make musicians complain? Start paying them. Man, that's not enough, man. I'm worth more than that, man. I'm going to do a save. All right. So let's look down. Let's do one more. And so then we had the circumstance of it here. We want the send level to be -11. That's the one I told you usually listen for, and you set that one the way you want. The aux return, we always like to set at unity, and we like to solo safe. So let's do another one with some reverb. So we're going to get the reverb track. We're going to route the funk guitar to it, and we're going to use the same parameters, -11, and we're going to solo safe. All right. So funky guitar. All right. So we've got our funk guitar out here, but now we're going to want the reverb there with it. All right. So 3 fingers down. And actually, you know what I'm going to do here? I'm going to move this under the funk guitar, just, and I'm gonna make them bigger just so we can see them. All right. So now, notice I already gave you the reverb. Now, this time I want you to remember when I went to bus, right? We could bus 3 and 4, but check this out. Because this aux track has no input, I can go, and because I've already used A already, I want to use B now for the reverb. Instead of going to a bus and setting it to 3 and 4, there's an automatic way to do it. Because the verb has no input, when I go down a track, it shows up, right? If it had an input, it would not show up. And when I do that, it automatically sets the aux send and the input to whatever track you've named, right? Now, look, it didn't do anything special. It still made a bus. It just made its own little bus and named it for you. All right? So now as we go here, remember my volume for my dry track, I'm going to be mixing it however I want, and I'm probably going to see, weird numbers down in here or whatever. But my effects track, we like to leave at unity, which is 0, right? And unity means that it's not being amplified, it's not being attenuated with a negative setting, right? It's at 0, so it is passing through. It's not being amplified or diminished. So it's got the cleanest unity signal. So I decide again how much I want with it. We want to solo safe it, so we're going to command click on here. We want our return at unity. And then normally I'm going to oversend it so I can hear it and then bring it back. And then they know we want it to set it to -11 just because we want you to know, we want to make sure that you know how it works. So, give me an R if everybody heard that reverb. And if you're having trouble hearing that reverb, I do want to talk to you about our business degrees here at Full Sail. Deverb is just the name of the plugin. It is Deverb. It's called Deverb. The generic term is reverb. So you will hear people call it verb. And then they got slick and called it, well, if that's reverb, we're going to be deverb for maybe like digital reverb or something. I don't know. All right, so we want that at -11 as well. All right, so we got -11. We got our verb solo saved, and now your track should sound. So, oh, and this has got to go. Let's send that back. Oh, look, finally, I'll show you about this. Because my sub master has no input, I'm able to send it out the same bus. Wow, there we go, y'all. It's just like that, man. So, all right. So that's what it should sound like. Yours should sound exactly like mine. Please label them as well. I don't want to see them left 1 and 2. We want to get you in the habit of labeling everything. I'm going to hit save real quick. By the way, do you know how many drummers it takes to change a light bulb? Whoops, I broke it. Oh, that's so funny. All right, I got some questions popping up. Of submasters, will we have to route? All right, so instead of routing to the submaster, you're going to have everything you route to your main outputs just as normal. Remember, the only reason why I'm doing that is so I can pull down all of the music and still talk over it if I need to, right? Because as I'm teaching, I need to say, listen to those pretty little snare drums. And if it's way too loud, same. So that's why I do a submaster. You're just going to send yours to your main output. Now, remember that we said the way solo works is that it mutes everything else, right? But we said it doesn't make sense if I wanted to solo that funk guitar that it muted the verb. So I command clicked on the solo to make that solo safe. And now I still hear the reverb come through. Nice. Very, very good. You see, is that we go and we get these tracks and we make the routing of them is very, very good. Very, very good. We unsolo them. Oh, it's like candy to the ear. Oh la la. Oh, je suis bon, bon, bon. Very, very good. All right, so now we got to import the file name lead synth from the MIDI files folder and put it on the track called lead synth. Somebody's looking at this said, dude, they got lead synth, man. So lead synth, we're going to do that. By the way, do y'all know that Bob Moog died for your synths? Import la MIDI data. So, where's this MIDI data? It's in the folder we gave you. So just look where you downloaded ye old PTA3, which is just pirate for your old PTA3. Have I told y'all what a pirate's favorite letter is? You think it's the R, but it's the C. Uh-oh. All right, so our Pro Tools assignment. What happened? What happened to my week 3? Did I put it in session 4? There I did. Yeah, I put it in section 4 instead of section 3. Look at me. All right, so look at that. MIDI files for import. Look, all we got to do, lead synth right there, man. Boom. Open it up. Bada bing. So if I needed a new track, I could import tempo files and all that kind of stuff, but I don't because we've already got a track for it. So we're just going to import it over to the clips list. Bada bing, bada boom. And look, now you can tell by looking, look, there's the MIDI, the little MIDI flag there versus the little audio badge, flag, icon. Alan says he hates Pro Tools. Alan, it's just kind of like some people. You just need to spend a little more time with it. You know, some people you just like. It's kind of like me sometimes. Some people are like, Steve tells awful jokes. I don't know if I want to be around him. But then the more they hang around me, they realize, oh my gosh, I really don't want to be around Steve. But no kidding. But no, seriously. You just gotta use it. And one of the easy ways, and I'll get back on track here in just a minute, is take something that you already know how to do in Logic and then just try to do it in Pro Tools, because it all starts with knowing a workflow. If you don't know what you should be doing, then you don't know how to do something. But it's like getting in a car, right? You know you got to get in, press the brake, start the car, take off the parking brake, put it in drive, right? You can't just put it in drive before you start it. There's a certain workflow to it, right? It doesn't work if you try to put it in drive and you haven't started it yet, right? So you got to understand the workflow first, and then it makes it easier to learn. All right, so we've got this MIDI file loaded in. Now we got to put it on the track. So check it out. Lead synth, we'll just do a little hide right here. Hide and unhide. Lead synth. Look, it's got MIDI data. What mode could I put it exactly at measure 1 just easily? Just shuffle in, right? Look at this. Just skabow wow. I don't even have to do anything. I just drop it right there. Now, it's gray right now because we're going old school and we want old signal flow like a MIDI and an aux track. Remember, I showed you a MIDI and aux track, and then I also showed you an instrument track this earlier this month. Now I want to focus back on that MIDI and aux track because that's actually harder to do. All right. So what it says is we've got that lead synth. Awesome. We're halfway there. All right, so now what we're going to do is we've got an aux track named Expand, and we're going to put a virtual instrument on it, and then we're going to route that synth to the Expand. All right, so there it is, Expand right there. Another aux track. Let's put it right underneath the MIDI track. So remember, it was last week we talked about MIDI signal flow and audio signal flow. So this is the combination where we're using two tracks. If I didn't want to use a MIDI and an aux track, what type of track could I use instead? An instrument track. Very good. Very good, Dante. All right, so it said put the expand on it, and watch. When I put the expand on it, and then I got to route it to the expand. So once we put it on there, and if you'll notice, we didn't have any other plugins to route the MIDI to until we put the expand down there. And once we put the expand, now we got it. Since it's all on channel 1, remember the channels line up, I got to put it on channel 1. So now I've got this. Now we're not hearing yet because the audio side, right? We don't have it sent anywhere, so let's send it to our submaster. You would send it to your main outs. So Hector, have you ever been listening to a voicemail from somebody, and then you start talking to the voicemail, you forget it's a voicemail, and you think you're on the phone with them, and you start talking to them, and you're like, "Yeah, I'll come over." Is that what it felt like? You thought Hector's like, "Dude, you're asking me these questions, and I was thinking I was on replay, and I was just kind of like answering. I forgot I had to write it." Oh, that's cool. All right. So let's see. That was some kind of wasp sound. Let's see what we need to do. It says set it to +10 Robo Brass. All right. And then record the MIDI lead synth to it. All right. So Robo Brass. Let's see where we're going to find Robo Brass. Synth Brass. And what number did it said? Did it say? Was it +10? +10 Robo Brass. All right. Let's see if we can find this somewhere. You know, it might be under hard leads. Ah, there it is. Look, hard leads Robo Brass. Right there. Bam. All right, so now let's see what it sounds like. All right, so now we've got that. All right, let's put that back down to Unity. So now we got this little Robo Brass sound. And so let's see, expand Robo Brass. Next, record the MIDI lead synth to a new stereo track for exactly 9 bars. Be sure to name the track before recording. Now, that's important because it gets the name, right, of that. So let's add a new stereo track. So Shift-Command in. And instead of hitting mono to stereo, I'm going to hit command sideways. And instead of going, well, I don't need to do audio track. There we go. One audio track coming up. All right, we need to label it synth. So just like last time, except I don't need a copy to go to an effect. I need the whole entire signal to jump down here. So instead of going to the submaster, we're going to say, what's that new track? No, all right, look at this. Synth has an input right now, so we are not going to see it under here. We do not see synth, right? So I need to full it. I can either go set my buses up or check this out. I'm just going to set this to no input. And once I set it to no input, now look, track synth. And now look, it's going to take it right out of this track, right into this track. You got to record arm it. Make sure you input monitor. And it said do it for 9 measures. So for 9 bars. And look, it put up my red arrows. It let me know that that's auto punching in. And so all I've got to do, let's get out of loop, is just hit record and play. And because I had a selection, see, I didn't even have to stop it. That's what they call an auto punch, because it when I make a selection, it's either going to auto play or auto record or auto punch, if you will, right? So that's what's happening there. Now you need to make sure that it's exactly 1 bar, and if you don't see any signal here, don't just go without it. Make sure that you've got it routed properly, and make sure you have your input button on, and that's the best way to make sure that you got your signal here. All right. Now, if you would like to, now that we're doing that, you can just make that inactive. I should have looked. I shouldn't have done that with them all highlighted. All right, now with only 1 highlighted, now you can make that inactive, and now you only have 1 synth coming through. All right, so let's see, Alan, you're saying pitch shift. Are you saying you think you heard the synthesizer do a pitch shift or something? But that's how we would do that. And then because we have that as audio, that synth as audio there, that's why I went ahead and made it inactive up there so I don't hear it twice. How do you make your keyboard connect again? That's in the US. You just plug it in USB, but then you got to make sure that in your audio MIDI setup, that you're seeing your keyboard under your MIDI window. And that's when it would show you your MIDI devices there, okay? All right. I tell you what, these plugins have been around a while, and so I wouldn't doubt that some of these have been layered in things that you've heard, for certain. For certain. All right, so we've got that. It's exactly 9 bars, and everything is smelling great. All right, we named it before we recorded. Oh, because see now, because we named it before we hit record, look, the clip name has got the same name as the synth. And it is automatically now playing this because we're sending that to your main output. I'll send it back to my submaster, but yes, you need that because now you got the audio playing. Very, very good. Very good. All right, so let's have a MA for MIDI to audio. If that's good, let's give me a question mark if you have a question about that routing. Good, good. I think half of you are responding. All right, so do you know how many conductors it takes to screw in a light bulb? I don't know either. Nobody ever watches them. All righty. Let's see what else we've got to do. We're rocking it out, man. This is a easy class today. On the newly recorded lead synth track, insert the filter gate modulation plugin. And then change it to 23 envelope follower. All right, so if we are putting this in the insert of the synth track, is this acting as a time-based or a dynamic-based effect? Give me a T or a D. I am putting it in the insert of the dry track. That is the clue. It's in the insert of the dry track, so it will be totally affected just like an EQ. Now I'm going to put 23 envelope follower. So you're right, it is a dynamic effect because it's going right there. If it was time-based, I would have been routing it and blending it, right? Time-based means routing and blending. Dynamic is all in. Oh gosh, and let's set that to 50%. There we go, that sounds better. All right, so does that make sense? Look over here. Remember this one, this reverb is working with this guitar, but because it's on a separate track, I routed it and blended it. That's time-based, right? But this bass has got a filter plug-in on it, so that acts just like an EQ, and that would be a dynamic because it's right in line with it. All right, so then we set that filter knob to 50%. We did that. Bada bing, bada boom. All right. So now, on the snare track, send and route it to the delay effect. And I think they meant the clap track. We'll see. Now draw the automation because, yeah, on the 3 claps. So sorry, folks. I'm prepping up for a little tweak. And I'm going to replace those claps with snares, and I think I got the wrong version in here, so I apologize. Just pretend that said clap. All right, so the clap track up here. I want to take that clap, and I want to automate it to the delay. Well, since I've already got stuff going to the delay like that, right? See? I can route that clap the same way. So when I go to the output to the bus, look, delay, boom. And now that's going to go there. And so this is, we can leave the delay. Where did our delay go? We can leave our delay on Unity, but we can mix out different levels here. So like they want us now to have it so it only plays on the last 3 claps, right? So I've got a send up here. So here's the easiest way to do this. Let's just move this over sideways. So instead of looking at the waveform, now that I've got a send A to the called delay, I can look at its level, right? And look at that. That's automation right there. So all I'm going to do is I see these 3 claps right down there bottom. I'm going to keep it anchored at the bottom, and then I'm going to pop it up here. If I just made one right here, it would do this and slowly, gradually go. But now watch how the fader interacts with the line here. So let's look at this a little bit closer just so you understand what's going on. Because this delay, I'm using it now for two different instruments. So I'm using it for two different instruments here. I'm using it for the funk or the guitar effects and for the clap, right? So both of them are sending signal to the delay. Now check this out. I'm going to take this. This little red button right here is my wife's favorite button, right? It's called the target button. And it's her favorite button because there's not a Publix button. Get it? Target and Publix. All right, if you look, I had a question if it was 2 claps or 3 claps. If you look right here, it is actually 3 claps right there. All right, so remember this target button, right? This means that if I open up any other send, it will target and hit that. So if I open up the send for the guitar effects, boom, it goes right there, and it's targeted. But if I take the target button off, look, it opens up a new window. So watch how both of these now are going to the delay, so I can leave my delay at 0. And remember, 0 is unity, right? So I'm going to have signal coming up from the guitar that set it to -11, but then the clap isn't. See? And let's hear this. Let's solo this, and let's solo this. So you hear the delay on the guitar. And then I'm going to take this send and go straight up. All right? And I did that because when I clicked there, I set it to a bus, whichever one I wanted, and I set that same input on my effect track to that same bus. All right? So now if I wanted the kick to go to the delay, I could just go to that as well. But that's not in the assignment, so we're not going to do that. Now, as this was a pretty easy assignment today. It goes a lot with routing, right? And some of the review on our MIDI stuff. So I'm going to stick around as I do for my class, as I do every night, and answer some questions and go through. But if you are having trouble understanding something or it's making sense, I want you to reach out to your instructor and let them know, hey, at 37 minutes, Steve was routing this effect. I didn't know what we would do, all right? And that way, I know that if you're getting some sense made out of it, that eventually you'll make some sense out of it and understand it. So I want to thank Alan, Charles, Clarence, Dante, Hector, James, Kay, and Jeffrey. Hey, thank y'all all for being here. I'm going to be around tomorrow night at 7 o'clock as we start jumping into our remix project again. But as I said, I am going to stick around here afterwards for some questions and hang time with y'all. So I appreciate y'all being here. I will see y'all tomorrow at 3 p.m. So again, my name is Steve Kane. As always, peace out. All right, great class, y'all. Let me get this saving real quick, and